Today we're going to talk about what Walmart is doing, what other grocery stores are doing, something you may have realized, but ultimately what the purpose is to make food unaffordable. Why is food unaffordable and why would they want that? Because I do believe there's a bigger play where independence in money and monetary system will change. Today we're going to discuss food is getting too expensive, and because of that we will rely on the government. We'll also talk about what happened with New Mexico and what their governor just said about the people of New Mexico and how they could not make it without Medicaid, how they need to expand Medicaid. We've seen this even in my state. We've seen this in several states where people cannot afford their own health insurance without some kind of Medicaid or parts of Medicaid, some kind of government assistance. So now we have food, we have health. What about housing? I sold a house back in 2021. And it was in Tennessee. I had a secondary home here. That house is worth 4 times what its valued was back then. The average American can't buy a home right now. But guess who is? BlackRock and other private equity groups are buying homes. So therefore they can charge you more rent. Rent has went up 30 to 50%. So no matter what president is in power, conservative or liberal, these things affect Americans, not because of just the politics, but because of what we've done in America and pretty much hurt American citizens. Today we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about food stamp programs, just what RFK said, because it goes back to the same situation where government provides foods, but the foods they're providing is trash, and we're going to discuss that. Let's dive into all these stories and a few more. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up, please. It means the world to us. Now let's dive into the stories of the day. Now you hear some of the things in the background. I can't help that. We are out of state, but I do want to bring this video to you because I do believe there's some very important things here. In the last few days we've talked about the escalations of war, talked about the escalations of some of the other situations happening in the world. Today we're going to talk about just America, talk about some of the things that are facing just Americans. We're going to go over a few stories, and then we're going to talk about the things that you should be doing, because if we're not doing these things, then we will be, just like everyone else, be led straight to full government control. Prime example, there was a story that just came out from X Alerts. It says, even though Americans right now state that they are fully against getting another one of these, listen to this. It says, majority of Americans will still be getting the boosters this fall because they said the way that we have built our government and the way that we've built the propaganda around TV, it will convince people that they have to have it. He says even though 65% of people think that it was wrong to have this in 2020 and 2021, the boosters wrong. Actually, more people are against the boosters than they were the first one. They said even that will prove false, because they said come fall, watch. That number will go to at least half, 50-50, he said, and it will probably go to the majority of Americans. He says study has shown this, how simple it is to convince people to do something. Is that not crazy? Like I told you before, when we talk about all these things that are going on, it seems like the more you hear that there's a new sickness or a new disease, I see more masks when I go to Walmart or go to a grocery store. Are going to town. I see more people wearing gloves or wearing 2 double masks. I had 2 individuals in our church the other day just wearing masks. I'm like, what? But see, that we're coming close to fall, so it allows them to have that talking point of, well, things are getting worse. And it says, through surveys it shows majority of Americans will still get the boosters. Even when they say they want, they will. Now let's move on to the real point of the video. I want to read this story from Walmart, because this is something that they've been doing. And again, people like us have noticed, but most people hadn't. They'll say, oh, we complain about the cost of goods, but listen to this. It says Walmart has been quietly changing their price structure on produce, no longer being per pound, but being priced per item, or switching to where it benefits them the most. For instance, it says, in some prices they're $1.14 for a nectarine, where it used to be maybe $1.50 per pound. So you may get 2 or 3 for that cost. Now it's $1.14, and what they're doing is putting that on the sign as $1.14, so you think you're still getting the same kind of per pound option, but actually it's per nectarine. Plums, 132. And it goes on. Now, I noticed this with grapes. Now, grapes we can't really grow where we're at. So we do buy organic grapes in Costco or Walmart, whomever has them, because most of the time you can't hardly find organic grapes. But they went to where you were buying packages for $7 or $8, you know, or $3 or $4, whatever it may be, for your grapes. The whole package in the bag. You put the little coating in, bam, you pay for it. Now, if you watch it, it's per pound. So you may say it's $3.44 on the ticket. So you're thinking, well, hey, these grapes are a good price. Let's go buy them. But it's $3.44 per pound. Well, it might be 3 pounds in there. So actually, you're paying more than what you were just a few weeks ago. It is not the fact that, well, price goes up. This is like a 50 or 60% change in pricing because the way they structure the produce and the price per pound or price per ounce. That will get you. So be careful of that. You're starting to see this more and more. Food prices are getting absolutely ridiculous. Now, let's talk about what RFK just said, because it deals with your food. It says, look, we are spending, listen to this now, we are spending $405 million a day on SNAP. About 10% of that is on sugary drinks. If you add candy in that, it's 17%. The U.S. taxpayer should not be paying for kids to eat trash food. That will give them diabetes and sicknesses. We're going to put an end to this. Now, why is that important? So, food's already costing more. Now, we are subsidizing that same trash food. We're not subsidizing good food, we're subsidizing trash food. This is why it matters. Democrat New Mexico governor says, essentially, everyone admits that Medicaid is needed in states. We're needed. Mississippi dealt with this, even a conservative state. It says, look, Medicaid has been supplementing almost every part of the health insurance, including business plans. 2 out of 5 New Mexicans are on Medicaid. Today, more than half of small businesses use it for health care coverage. So that's why you'll never see a pushback of things like Obamacare or some kind of subsidized health care, because what is needed? Government's hand is needed in that. So now we have stories where government's hand is needed in food, government's hand's needed in health care. Because if not, we can't afford our own food, we can't afford our own health. You see how this is going? We tried to say that we want independence, but really when it comes down to it, we can't afford our own independence. And that might be because we're spending too much inflation, too much other problems. But the bottom line is, then who do we always fall back on? Government. Sometimes the problems we have may be the fact that government needs those problems to happen, so we rely on them. Have you ever thought about it like that? 2020 was reference to that, the great financial crisis, all that. I think all that relies back on the fact that we just may need the government in our life. Isn't that what they want? To grow the government, to make it bigger? So that's why I think the push against independence and sustainable living will keep on happening. Because what they want is a group of individuals and a group of the populace and the people who actually need the government. I think Republicans and Democrats want this. The establishment wants this. So that way your dependency is not on yourself, it is on government. Now, before we keep talking about this and government dependency, let's talk about Chapter. Today's sponsor is Chapter. If you're 65 and older, or about to be, you need to look at Chapter. While we're talking about saving money, and because government costs a lot and things cost a lot, the best way to save money when it comes to Medicare is through Chapter. Chapter is an advisor for you. They work alongside all these companies and make sure that they're advising you. You know, it's great to think of plans and supplements and doctors and medicines, but sometimes, to be honest with you, we don't know. We don't know what the best plan is for us. Especially as we get older, everybody has an opinion. Sometimes those opinions are good, but they may not be good for us. So check with Chapter today, because they're going to help you. The average American that uses Chapter saves $1,100. $1,100. Do not miss out on this opportunity. And guess what? It's free to use. $0. It costs you nothing to give them a call. Check with the number below. There's a link in the description as well. But if you call them, I promise you, you're either going to realize you're on the best plan there is, or you're going to save some money. There's nothing like saving money, especially when everybody else is trying to take your money. Check with Chapter today. Let them help you make sure you're on the right plan when it comes to Medicare supplements. So we talked about the other things that government has a hand in. Now let's talk about our housing. Now, I used to own a house. I owned a secondary home it was like a rental investment in Tennessee. That house I purchased for around $170,000. Now that house actually was about 1,400 square foot. So in my terms, that was like $120, $130 a square foot. That was highway robbery back at that time. However, the housing market up here was about $150, $160. Back at my home was around $50 or $60 per square foot for a regular old home. Not, you know, a brand new home may be $85, $90 a square. So now let's skip from that point till now. That same house I turned around and sold and made money on. I literally doubled my money. Okay? That house now is worth about $450,000. Now, it makes me want to still own it and wish I did. But the sad thing is that house went from $170,000 to $450,000 essentially with nothing done to it. They didn't add on to it. We didn't add on to it. We did typical maintenance on a home, but that house did not go up in value 3 to 4 times in existence just because, did it? But it's because the environment that we've made in America. Okay, now let's go back to my home. I live in the most impoverished state in the Union, Mississippi. Now I love Mississippi. I don't think Mississippi is poor because it's poor people. Mississippi actually just doesn't have a cost of living that's real high. So then it looks like people are not making a lot of money. It looks like we're impoverished. I digress. It's not that big of a deal. But here's the thing. To buy a home in my town, we built our home for about $50 or $60 a square foot. Typically people build for about $100 a square foot. That was in 2016, 2015, up to about 2020. Now, I talked to a builder the other day. You know, I'm building Aiden's home. Aiden's home, I'm building a barn dominium. I'm doing it myself. I'm contracting it, so I'm subcontracting things that I can't do because there's some things I just can't do. And we're going to end up being around $50, $60 a square foot. But it's because I've managed it and because I've been over it, and I'm also paying cash for this property. So I can take my time. And I don't have a contractor. I'm my own contractor. I'm my own builder. Yeah, everything. I'm doing myself. Now, today, I talked to a good friend of mine, a guy that actually built my home. He said the average house in Mississippi, which is an impoverished, lowest amount of state when it comes to income, he said anywhere from $160 to $250 a square foot. Oh my gosh, like that makes me think how crazy it is. How people can't afford homes anymore. I read a study the other day. It said that in 1950, over 65% of Americans that were under 30 could buy a home. Meaning the average family that just maybe had a kid or two by the age 30 also had a home. 60-something% of that. By 1960, it was about 50%. By 1980, it's around 40%. Not really dropping much, but dropping a little bit. By 2010, it was 25%. By 2020 to 2030, basically during this time, they said it's going to be around 10 to 15%. People can't afford homes anymore. So they're renting. Well, rent is going up about 50% over the last few months because now they know that you can't afford a home, so you have to rent. There's 2 problems. First, your government keeps spending money, so therefore it's making everything go up. Second problem, one company, BlackRock. BlackRock owns over 1.5 million homes. That's a problem for young families trying to get a spot in the American dream. BlackRock is taking the advantage of the money they made and now costing you more. BlackRock's home buying spree, managing over 1.5 million properties in 2023, now assesses to a point where it is almost a monopolized industry because they're pulling over the same thing they did in the stock market, they're doing in the housing market, and they're owning it all. There was a lady on TikTok the other day that said her rent went from $1,600 to $2,200 over a 2-year span. Now it's amazing. This is like an 800 square foot home now. So it's like an apartment, not in suburban areas, but just in an area that's kind of outside of a big town. And she says, I can't afford it. I can't afford $1,600, much less $2,200. But basically, it's taking all my money. So now people are having to move in with each other. They can't buy a home. They can't rent a home because the cost of it has went up. So now let's go back to the very first of this video. We talked about how the food industry has been taking over and costing too much, that Walmart and Kmart and Kroger and all these have been now monopolized to a point where they're taking advantage of you to make as much money as they can. On top of that, government is spending a lot of money and causing for a lot of that inflation. Okay. Number 2, health insurance. Health insurance is such a crop of crap. We don't have enough crossing state lines. We cannot afford it. So I told you not too long ago to do medical bill sharing through Christian Care Ministry or other platforms like that to co-opt the insurances because people can't afford it. I personally don't even partake in my own insurance plan that I offer to my employees because it's a bad deal. And I've told my employees it's a bad deal. Look at things like medical bill sharing because I do believe it's better. But I digress. New Mexico and several other states have been into expanding Medicaid so people can be on the government, and the government pretty much will handle them and help them. Now, the housing. We're starting to see the same thing where now, like California and other areas are starting to build homes to help individuals, almost like Section 8 housing. Government is entangled in our lives. Listen to this. Elizabeth Warren came out just yesterday. And she said this, just in, Elizabeth Warren announces that nationwide Democratic measures should be exactly what Zohran Mamdani's policy of government-run grocery stores is and socialism is. We should try these things on groceries, and this should be our platform. So all of Washington is worried about trying to make sure that you're on their platforms, their control. What happens when you're under full control? It's biblical. You're slave to the lender, correct? Once we realize that all these things we can blame on anyone, but ultimately the biggest blame falls back on government because they're making the environment for the government to be over you because ultimately people can't afford to live. If people can't afford their normal necessities, shelter, food, and health, then who will provide it? Government. The sad thing is this. People are in a very bad way. So here's 5 things that you should make sure that you are doing. First, when it comes to health care, you need to be looking at medical bill sharing. And you need to clean up your diet so it cleans that up where you won't be in a bind to make sure you're on all this medicine. One thing about medical bill sharing is they help you and they subsidize healthiness. So the less you go to the doctor, the more that you take care of your health. They'll actually give you a premium deduction. So it helps you. So check out medical bill sharing. Also make sure that you're not just paying for all this stuff that you're not using. Number 2, food. You've got to either start growing your own food or you've got to start building a community of people that is sourcing their food locally. And listen to this, that is selflessness. But that's not selfish, it's selfless. Now what do I mean by that? People grow food because they believe in it. They don't do it to get rich quick. I grow my own food and grow my own gardens, not because it saves me piles of money, but because it's good for me, it's independent, and it's health. It gives me sustainability and independence. So you've got to start growing your own food. So buy some seed banks today. Survival Garden Seeds has some of the best seed banks based on medicinal crops, based on herbs, based on vegetables, based on homesteads, based on full gardens, based on prepper garden supplies. Look at Survival Garden Seeds and look at other means of opportunity to control your food system. Number 3, medicines. If medicines keep going up, what are we to do? Now, Trump did come out and say that he was going to lower prescription drugs. I think that's a crazy thing. And I think he should use the same leverage he used on the colleges and the same leverage he used on tariffs, pressing down and pushing hard on pharmaceuticals to lower the price. But until then, you better make sure you are stockpiling medicine, because if you are reliant on it or you're worried about it, then you need to buy it. Look at Jace Medical or look at Wellness Company. You could look at any company like that. There's links below for both of those to save you some money. But ultimately, you need to buy survival medicine. I don't want to be, look, we're out of state, and guess what? We have 2 kits with us. Why? Because we want to make sure that we're always ready. We want to have everything that we need when it comes to medicine, because I don't want to have to try to go to a pharmacy up here or a doctor up here. What if all of a sudden something bad happens in the world? It happens every day, it seems like now. So I want to make sure that I have survival medicine, because I don't want to be without it. I want to have that independence. Number 4, one thing I've realized is I've got to stay out of debt. Now, I keep beating this dead horse about staying out of debt. You've got to stay out of debt because your government is not doing it. They're not being good with money. Your state governments are not being good with money. Most of the people around you are not being good with money. I had a car dealer tell me the other day, I said, I asked him, I said, how in the world do people afford $100,000 cars? And he said, it's easy, they don't. He said, they just put them on debt. And he said, to be honest with you, they trade them in before they're even paid off. And he said, they just keep having recurring debt until a point where they're delinquent. And he said, they're upside down. He said, and they're literally falling to pieces. I said, well, what's going to make the price of cars go down? I mean, we're paying $100,000 for cars now. It's crazy. That's a mortgage. My first house was $60,000. They said, until people quit buying, it'll never go down. So you know how we changed the policies at Walmart? You know how we changed the policies at auto dealers? You know we changed the policies at colleges? You know we changed the policies at vacations, homes, and whatever else? You start getting on a budget and start buying things that you can afford. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Stay out of debt. And number five, the best independent feeling is when you know that you've got all these things lined up. Here's what I mean. I want a home. I want a car. It's not the biggest home. It's not the biggest car. It's not the newest car. I have food. It's not the nicest food, but it's food. Number five is being grateful. Not taking life for granted. If you have a home, be happy that you have a home, because so many people don't. If you have health, be happy you have health, because so many people don't. If you have an automobile that drives, even though it's 20 years old, who cares? It's an automobile that drives that does not cost you anything but a routine maintenance check here and there, instead of having to pay for a car note every month. And being out of debt, that's the best feeling in the world, because most people are not out of debt. So number five is the peace of mind that your home gives you, because the world is going absolute bonkers. So number five is finding peace and not taking for granted the things that God has given you. If you have some things, learn to utilize them, learn to be thankful for them, because I believe when you're thankful and you're humble, God will keep on watching over you. Just my thoughts. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video, from what RFK said to all the dangers of BlackRock buying our home, government getting more entangled in our life. I'm pushing you for independence. Independence is these five things. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.